Hey, everybody, in the We Get Around Network Forum. Great to connect with you all again for another deep dive.
Absolutely.
Now, I know lots of you out there are just rocking the residential real estate scene
Yeah.
with your Matterport Pro 3 cameras,
hmm
and those virtual tours are impressive stuff. But have you ever thought about what else the Pro 3 can do?
Yeah.
What if I told you it could open a whole new avenue of business opportunities beyond just houses and apartments?
Well, what's really interesting is that the spatial data you're capturing with those scans has just a ton of potential beyond those pretty 3D tours.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And today we're diving deep into one of those opportunities, SCAN-to-BIM.
Okay.
Now, I get it, BIM might sound kind of intimidating if you're not familiar
Sure.
with it,
Right.
but stick with us. We're breaking it down in a way that makes total sense, even if you're hearing this term for the very first time.
Yeah.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll not only get what BIM is, but also why it's relevant to you as a Matterport service provider, even if you're not actively chasing those clients just yet.
Yeah.
Trust me, knowing about BIM can give you a serious edge in the market.
It really is all about understanding the power of the data you're already working with. Think of it like this. Your Pro 3 is capturing way more than just pretty pictures. It's collecting a treasure trove of spatial information that can be used in all sorts of ways.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics. What exactly is SCAN-to-BIM? Could you break that down for us in simple terms?
Absolutely. Imagine you're scanning a building with your Pro 3.
Okay.
You're capturing millions of precise measurements, creating what we call a point cloud. Basically, a super detailed 3D representation of that space. Scan to BIM takes that point cloud and converts it into a BIM model. BIM stands for Building Information Modeling, and it's like a digital twin of a building, but way more than just a visual replica. It contains a wealth of information about the building's structure, systems, and materials.
So it's kind of like those 3D models you see in video games or architectural software, but with real-world data baked in.
That's a good way to think about it. But unlike those models, a BIM model is a living document that evolves throughout a building's life cycle. It's used for everything from design and construction to operations and maintenance.
Okay, so we're talking about some seriously powerful stuff here. But why should our MSPs in the We Get Around Network forum care about this? What's the big deal about SCAN-to-BIM, and how can it translate into actual benefits for their businesses?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Well, here's the thing. The construction industry, which, by the way, is huge and always looking for ways to work smarter,
Yeah.
is increasingly relying on BIM. And guess what?
What?
MSPs are in a prime position to provide the data that fuels these BIM models.
So instead of just handing over a 3D tour, we're talking about offering something that integrates directly into the design and construction process.
Exactly. And that opens up a whole new world of potential clients and projects. Think architects, engineers, contractors, anyone involved in the building life cycle.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
But I think our listeners would love to hear some real-world examples of how this is actually playing out.
Yeah.
The blog post we shared mentioned some companies that are already using SCAN-to-BIM with impressive results.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we were talking about the potential for MSPs to expand their businesses by offering scan-to-BIM services
Right.
and how this is being used in real-world projects of all shapes and sizes.
Exactly. And it sounds like Matterport plays a key role in this process.
Uh-huh.
But I think some of our listeners might be wondering, okay, this sounds great, but where do I even start?
I hear you. It can feel a little overwhelming at first.
Yeah.
But Matterport has actually made it incredibly easy for MSPs to jump into the world of BIM.
Okay.
They've developed a whole suite of tools and resources that streamline the process,
Good.
making it accessible even if you're not a BIM expert.
Okay, tell me more about these tools. What makes Matterport stand out in the SCAN-to-BIM landscape?
Well, for starters, Matterport offers LOD 200 BIM files. Now, I know that might sound like a bunch of technical jargon, but it's actually quite simple. LOD stands for level of detail,
Okay.
and it basically refers to how much information is included in a BIM model.
So a higher LOD means a more detailed model.
Yes.
And LOD 200 is kind of like a sweet spot for getting started with BIM.
Exactly. LOD 200 provides a solid foundation for any project, giving architects and engineers a clear understanding of the space's layout, dimensions, and key structural elements. And the beauty of it is that Matterport makes it incredibly easy to generate these LOD 200 files directly from your scans.
That sounds way less intimidating than I thought. So I'm scanning a building with my Pro 3.
Yeah.
I upload the data to Matterport,
Right.
and boom, I've got a BIM file that I can hand off to architect or engineer.
Pretty much that straightforward. Of course, there's always the option to go deeper and create more complex BIM models.
Right.
But LOD 200 is a great starting point, especially if you're just dipping your toes into the BIM world.
Okay, that's a huge relief to hear. But what about compatibility with industry standard software? Like, if an architect is using Revit or AutoCAD,
Right.
will they be able to work with the BIM files generated by Matterport?
Absolutely. Matterport has a plugin for Revit, which allows for seamless integration with those platforms. This means architects can easily import your Matterport data directly into their workflows, saving them a ton of time and effort.
So it's not like they have to start from scratch or manually recreate the model.
Right.
They can basically hit the ground running with the data you provide.
Exactly. And that's a huge selling point for potential clients. You're not just providing raw data. You're offering a solution that integrates seamlessly with their existing workflows, making their lives easier.
That's brilliant. It sounds like Matterport has really thought this through and made it as user-friendly as possible for both MSPs and their clients. But let's not forget about the digital twins.
Right.
We talked earlier about how they enhance BIM models by adding an immersive interactive layer. Can you elaborate on that a bit more? How do digital twins actually elevate the BIM experience?
You're right. Digital twins are a game changer. They take those static BIM models and bring them to life,
Okay.
allowing you to virtually walk through the space, interact with objects, and really get a feel for the design.
So instead of just looking at blueprints or 2D drawings, you can actually experience the space in 3D,
Yeah,
almost as if you were physically there.
precisely.
Yeah.
And that's a huge advantage for architects, engineers, and clients alike. It allows for better communication, clearer understanding, and more informed decision-making.
I can imagine that being incredibly helpful for visualizing design concepts,
Yeah.
identifying potential clashes between different systems,
Mm,
and even just getting a better sense of scale and proportion.
exactly. And don't underestimate the wow factor.
Mm.
Digital twins are incredibly engaging and impressive,
Right.
and they can really help you stand out from the competition.
Okay, so we've got these powerful tools at our disposal: LOD 200 BIM files, seamless integration with industry standard software, and immersive digital twins. But let's talk strategy.
Okay.
If I'm an MSP who's excited about this opportunity, what are some practical steps I can take to start incorporating SCAN-to-BIM into my business?
Well, that's a great question. Let's dive into those strategies and give you a roadmap for success.
So we've been exploring SCAN-to-BIM,
Yes, we have.
what it is, why it matters,
Right.
and how Matterport is making it super accessible for MSPs like you.
We've talked about those amazing tools that Matterport offers.
Yeah.
From those LOD 200 BIM files to that Revit plugin, and not to mention the power of those immersive digital twins.
Exactly. It's clear there's a huge opportunity here for MSPs to level up their services and tap into a whole new market. But I think the big question on everyone's mind is, okay, how do I actually make this happen in my business?
That's the key question, right? It's one thing to understand the potential, but it's another to translate that into action. So let's get down to brass tacks and talk strategy.
Perfect. Let's start with marketing. How do you effectively market these new SCAN-to-BIM services? It's probably not as straightforward as residential real estate where you can just knock people's socks off with a stunning 3D tour.
You're right, it's a different ballgame. When you're marketing to architects, engineers, contractors,
Yeah.
the AEC crowd, you need to speak their language, you know? They're all about precision, efficiency, solving problems.
Yeah.
Your marketing needs to hit those points hard, showcasing how your SCAN-to-BIM services deliver exactly what they need.
So ditch the fancy jargon and go straight for the hard facts.
Exactly. Quantify the benefits. Instead of saying SCAN-to-BIM improves accuracy, tell them our SCAN-to-BIM services can reduce errors by X%, saving you time and money. Back it up with numbers, real-world examples, case studies. That's what's going to resonate with this audience.
Show them the money.
Yeah.
I like it. What about visuals? It seems like those detailed BIM models and immersive digital twins would be pretty powerful marketing tools in themselves.
Absolutely. Don't just tell them, show them. Let those visuals speak for themselves. Include screenshots of your BIM models in your presentations. Create videos showcasing the interactivity of your digital twins. Maybe even put together a portfolio of past SCAN-to-BIM projects.
So it's about creating a visual story that highlights the value that you bring to the table.
Precisely. And think about tailoring your marketing materials to specific client segments.
Okay.
Instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, create targeted brochures, presentations, even social media posts that speak directly to the needs of each audience. For example, if you're targeting architects, highlight your experience with as-built documentation for renovations.
Okay.
If you're going after facility managers, focus on how your services can help them optimize space utilization and streamline maintenance workflows.
It makes sense to speak their language and show them you understand their unique challenges. So you've piqued their interest and they're intrigued by SCAN-to-BIM. Well, let's talk money. How do you price these services? Is it as simple as charging a flat fee per scan, like you might for residential real estate?
It's a bit more nuanced than that.
Yep.
SCAN-to-BIM projects can vary widely in scope and complexity. You need a pricing model that reflects the effort and expertise involved in each project.
So what are some approaches MSPs can consider?
One common method is to charge by the square footage of the project. Another option is to break down the project into phases: data capture, processing, modeling, and price, each phase separately.
Okay.
This gives you more flexibility and allows you to account for the specific requirements of each project.
That sounds more manageable, breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. Any other factors to consider when it comes to pricing?
Absolutely. Factor in your time for things like client communication, project management, travel, all those behind-the-scenes tasks that are crucial for a successful project.
It's easy to forget about those non-scanning tasks, but they definitely add up.
They do. And remember, don't undervalue your expertise. You're not just pushing a button, you're bringing valuable skills and knowledge to the table.
Knowledge is power. All right, so we've covered marketing and pricing, two essential pieces of the puzzle. But what about the human element? How important are relationships in this industry?
Relationships are everything, especially in the AEC world. These are long-term projects often involving big budgets and complex stakeholders. Building trust and rapport with your clients is essential for success.
So what are some tips for building those strong relationships?
Be responsive, be proactive, and be a problem solver. Respond to emails promptly, anticipate potential challenges, and come prepared with solutions. And most importantly, be a good communicator. Keep your clients informed throughout the process, explain things clearly, and be transparent about any issues that arise.
It's all about clear and open communication. And what about education? Should MSPs be educating their clients about SCAN-to-BIM?
Absolutely. Many of your potential clients may not be familiar with SCAN-to-BIM or the full potential of spatial data. By sharing your knowledge and explaining the benefits in a way they understand, you're not only demonstrating your expertise, but you're also positioning yourself as a trusted advisor.
I like that. It's a win-win. You're educating your clients and establishing yourself as a valuable resource.
Exactly. And remember, this is a collaborative process. Be open to feedback, be willing to adapt your approach, and work together to achieve the best possible outcomes.
So to wrap things up for our listeners in the We Get Around Network Forum, what's the key takeaway here?
SCAN-to-BIM represents a huge opportunity for MSPs to expand their businesses, tap into a new market, and position themselves as leaders in this spatial data revolution.
It's not just about scanning anymore. It's about understanding the data, knowing how to use it effectively, and providing solutions that solve real-world problems.
Exactly. And Matterport is making it easier than ever for MSPs to make this transition. They've got the tools, the resources, and the support to help you succeed.
So what are you waiting for? Take the plunge, embrace the world of SCAN-to-BIM, and watch your business soar to new heights. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time for another exciting exploration of the world of spatial data.